Hi guys, I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. But today it is time for another monthly recap. It feels like just yesterday that I did my September one. That might be because that one was late, but either way, today we are recapping everything that I watched in the month of October. If you're new to these episodes, basically what I do is go through everything that I have logged in Letterboxd. I begin with all of the new releases of 2024. This could be horror and non-horror. Then we go through all the other movies. This could be first-time watches for me or rewatches. And then we finish with TV shows if I'm watching anything new or interesting. So if you aren't new to the channel, you may have watched my What the Horror Halloween challenge watch list, where I decided to do a challenge for you guys to follow along, like 31 days of Halloween, but with specific prompts for each day. I did try to follow my own watch list. I did pick films for each prompt, and I tried to get through as many as I possibly could do. Now, I didn't quite make all 31, but I did watch a good chunk of them, and I did try to prioritize the ones that were a first time watch for me and not just a rewatch for comfort, like a yearly Halloween rewatch. So that was really fun. So a lot of these will be my watch list prompt choices, but some of these are also just films that I have watched because they're a new release, because I've been, waiting, dying to watch these ones, or they're just ones that I was in the mood for. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about today is Caddo Lake. So Caddo Lake is one of those where I'm not really going to tell you much about it, because this is a film that ideally it would be better if you went into blind, because it's better just to watch it and have the experience, have the journey that the film takes you on without having anything previously spoiled. An 8-year-old girl goes missing when they believe that she has tried to follow her sister home somewhere, and she's gone missing, and so the town sets up a search party trying to look for her. And then there's also this secondary character of Paris, played by Dylan O'Brien, and it's just like following his story as well as the story of the family whose 8-year-old daughter has gone missing. I had a good time with this one. I don't know what made me want to watch this. I think it's because I saw somebody else talking about it saying, I'm so glad this wasn't spoiled, and that kind of piqued my interest. And I also kind of love those settings where there's just the watery settings, the lake towns, of fishing towns, anything like that. That aesthetic appeals to me. This was the first film I'd seen Dylan O'Brien in. I'm really intrigued to watch Saturday Night. It's not in the UK yet. I suppose it's because we don't get SNL, but I really do want to watch that. And Dylan O'Brien plays Dan Aykroyd, so I was really intrigued to see how he does with this. So it was interesting to watch him in Caddo Lake, and I really enjoyed his performance. I mean, obviously these are going to be complete polar opposite performances. Paris in this is a very serious role, but he did a really good job. I really liked him in it, and I am glad that I went in completely blind, not knowing anything. So I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars and a heart. I did have a good time with this one. I have seen some quite negative reviews on Letterboxd for it because people are complaining that it's a slow burn. I will say that the second and the third act are far stronger than the first act, but I think you need the slow burn to really establish the story, to really establish the characters. But if you watch it and you go, this is a bit slow for me, I would say just stick with it, because the ending, the payoff is worth it. Okay, next we're going to talk about The Substance. This is a film I'm sure most of you are aware of. This has driven the horror community absolutely mad. People are raving about Coralie Fargi, about Demi Moore. I mean, all the performances in this, Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, it's phenomenal, isn't it? The imagery in this film is gorgeous. I love the use of the colours, because there's lots of hidden meanings behind the use of certain colours in films, and you have a lot of pinks with Margaret Qualley's Sue, and then you have a lot of vibrant yellows and blues with Demi Moore's character. So it's visually beautiful. The performances are so strong. It's well written, and this is a writer that obviously understands the material that they're writing about, the story, the message. that the film is conveying, while it is not subtle, while it is very obvious what this film is saying, it is an incredible message that is so well written and delivered. And there was a moment in it where I just went, yep, this is where I'm connecting with this film. And it's where Sue, she's returned to the film studio, panicked about something, no spoilers, and then she's suddenly swarmed on by Dennis Quaid and this swarm of old grey-haired executive producers who all just want to look at her because she's so gorgeous. And because she's panicked, she's just got this straight face, and Dennis Quaid is just like, smile! Pretty girl should always smile. And I cannot tell you the number of times in my life that I've been told by some random guy, smile. You just be walking down the street and they shove the face in front of your face, like, smile! It's like, no, we don't owe you a smile. Go away. So it's just incredible. It's a really gross film, and to me, the grossest scene in this was the one where Dennis Quaid is eating, is it shrimp? It's really, really disgusting. And then obviously we get all the body horror, which for me, on a personal note, made this harder to watch. I've said before, I'm really squeamish, especially with body horror, and the special effects were remarkable. It just made it a little hard for me to watch. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's not a 5-star film for me, but I think that's more my own personal experience with it. But just, it's remarkably done. Then we have Woman of the Hour. This is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, and my word, didn't she do a wonderful job? I know not everybody loved it, but to me, I just think her eye, and I know people scoff at the word cinematography, but the cinematography in this film, her eye for it is so beautiful. I loved it. I read somewhere that she was saying, I want to make the beautiful things beautiful and the ugly things ugly, and I think that really sums up what she created in this film. I have done an episode that is a truly horror one. It is the facts behind the film. I'll leave a link to it here if you want to see that. So it's not the most accurate portrayal of Rodney Alcala's crimes, and Cheryl Bradshaw, Anna Kendrickson's character, this is a very fictionalized version of the character, but there is a reason for that, and the reason is that Woman of the Hour is not a film that is primarily about the crimes of Rodney Alcala. It's not his story. It's the story of the victims, and also the story of why was he allowed, why was there such a toxic society that allowed a predator like this to continue for so long. And that's why the film takes artistic license. That's why it fictionalizes some things, because it is portraying a message, it's portraying themes through it, and it wants to just get that across as clearly as it possibly can. There's no sort of grey area with it. It's like, this is what we're saying, and we're making it very clear for you to understand. And I think that it's this message of how women were treated back in the 70s and the fear that they felt, but it's one of those that's still so relevant to today. So it's an important message and important to get across clearly. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars and a heart. I really loved this. Okay, so that is the last of the new releases for this year. I didn't watch many this month, so let's go back to the beginning. The first thing that I watched is Dracula. Now, this is technically a TV show and not a film, but it's only a short TV show. It's a 3-parter. It was made for 2020 by Matt Gatiss and Stephen Moffat, who also made Sherlock and a lot of the Doctor Who series. I love this one. This is an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula that is the most unique. It is the most bizarre portrayal of the original material, in that it is simultaneously incredibly respectful and honest to that, but also incredibly different and out there. But Klaus Bang as Dracula is one of my favourite performances of a Dracula. This one, he's suave, he's charming, he's sexy, but he's got this tart tongue, he's very sassy, and he's also kind of meta and self-aware of the myths and legends of vampires and things like that, and he's very funny throughout it as well. The first 2 episodes are the strongest, in my opinion. The third one, I liked more on this second watch than I did the first time. The first time it threw me so much, I just thought that didn't land, that didn't work that well. But I liked it more this time because of Klaus Bang's performance. Yeah, it's definitely, if you're a fan of Dracula, I would say give it a go, because it hits all the right beats of what we know, but then it also turns some things on its head. It makes you look at the lore and the story in a different way. It does have that comical side to it, and the visuals are beautiful as well, like the Dracula's castle. There is one episode that is entirely on the Demeter, and the imagery of Whitby as well. It's just really beautiful. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars and a hat. It's really good. Okay, then on the second, I decided to have a Hell House marathon because I was doing a ranking / review of the franchise for my Patreons. So I will go through them all individually. Now, Hell House LLC is one that I watched for the first time last year because we had the Carmichael Manor released. And so I watched the first one to then watch the new one. And this is a film I've mentioned before that genuinely scared me. And there aren't many films that do that anymore. When you watch so much horror, you just, you become a bit more desensitized to it. And it's rare that I get a genuinely good scare or a really genuinely good viewing experience. And this film was one of those. I'm not saying it's the greatest written horror film or acted horror film, but it is better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. I can understand why it's not for everybody. A lot of the characters are insufferable, except for Tony and Mac, who have never done anything wrong in their life. They're the only good characters in this film. Everyone else can suck it, basically. They're awful, but it is, like I said, it's one of the best experiences, this and the fourth one, in terms of the scare that it gave me. And even watching it on this second time, knowing what was coming, there were still moments that genuinely creeped me out. And for some reason, this whole franchise, I'm inexplicably just obsessed with it. I'm fascinated with the Abaddon Hotel, the imagery of the clowns as well. So I'll be rewatching them all next year, no doubt, when we have the new one. The first one I gave 3.5 stars out of 5 and a heart. I think this one is really solid. Oh boy, then we dip down to Hell House LLC 2, the Abaddon Hotel. This one I do not love as much. This is the direct sequel to the first one, but this is the one that doesn't feel like it's part of the franchise. The quality in acting, the quality in script, the quality in just everything dips dramatically. It's using the same hotel, and yet for some reason it just never feels like we're actually in the Abaddon Hotel. There's no establishing shots, there's no wide shots, there's just everything is zoomed right in up to the character's face or the back of their head. That's the entirety of the film, unless we're in some studio where there's a blue screen and just like 4 stools and people talking. And you're chasing people around with the camera, running and screaming for the runtime. It's like that does not make a scary film. And there's one part of this film where I think it's about 15 minutes of these characters just sat in a bedroom talking. I give this one 1 out of 5 stars. I'm not a fan of the second one. The third one, Lake of Fire, is a vast improvement on the second one. This one is kind of a rehash of the first story. You have a live action theatre performance going on. You have them building up and preparing for opening night, and then you have things happen on opening night. But the reason why they're back there makes sense. The acting, while not amazing, is vastly better, and the use of the hotel is as well. We've lost the idea that this is some labyrinth that you get lost in. You actually see the exteriors, you see the hallways, the bar, the basement. This feels more of a natural sequel than the second one did. So I gave Lake of Fire 2.5 out of 5 because it is vastly better, and there's enjoyment there. And then finally we have the Carmichael Manor. This one came out last year. I said at the time when I watched it, and I'll say it again, I damn near pooped my pants the first time I watched this film. I was home alone, it was dark, I had a cold sweat on, the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up on end. This one terrified me because to me it's like ghostly paranormal stuff that scares me. That's kind of what these films play on, isn't it? It's like the haunted clowns and ghostly apparitions and things like that. So it really scared me, and There's an aspect of Pavlov's dogs in this, where Pavlov would ring a bell and train his dogs to salivate when the bell rung because they knew they were getting food. There's the imagery of red balls in this one that move. They appear, they roll down a corridor, and every time you see one of these red balls appear, the film trains you as an audience to get on edge that something's going to happen. So every time you see one, it's like, no. And there are some incredibly structured scares in this one. There's one involving a video call and some photos. If you've seen it, you'll probably know what I mean. That's a really good one. And then there's another one that is kind of an after the fact scare where something happens to a character, you realise they've gone missing, and then we discover what happened after the fact. And I think they're really effective. So I gave Carmichael Manor 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. And I know that they left it open for a 5th one. We've now had it confirmed that there will be a 5th one coming along. From the implication of the film, it's going to follow more of the carnival or the fair that was hinted at in the 3rd one and then was addressed in the 4th one as well. So I, for one, am really looking forward to it. Okay, then I watched Mulholland Drive, which was for my own What the Horror challenge. This is a film I haven't seen before. This is a David Lynch film, so it's not going to be for everybody. It's an unusual and unique viewing experience, as are a lot of David Lynch's creations. But if you're a fan of his stuff, you're probably going to enjoy this one. It's not exactly what I expected. I don't know what I did expect. Performances from the 2 female leads are brilliant. You have your usual sort of whimsical, bizarre editing and use of the camera as you do with a lot of David Lynch's stuff. Okay, then I watched Halloween H20 or Halloween H2O. This one I watched for 2 reasons. One, it was my Halloween franchise choice on my watchlist challenge, but I also watched it for a Patreon commentary track for my patrons. I watched it and did an audio commentary track for them. This one, and I'm unashamed to say this, is my favourite in the Halloween franchise. The first one is my second favourite. I do love it, but this is my favourite. And I think it's because it's so unapologetically Scream era inspired. In fact, there are parts of the score in this that are lifted from the Scream score. I think, or is it Scream 2? It's very self-aware and meta. You have Janet Leigh playing Jamie Lee Curtis's assistant in this, and she's like, can I just be motherly for a moment? Because she is the mother. She's also driving the same car as she does in Psycho, and as she walks away at one point, there are a few notes from the Psycho score. So that plays into my hand perfectly, because Psycho is one of my favourite films of all time. I love that. I just think for me as well, this is my favourite future Laurie. Between this version and the one from David Gordon Green's trilogy, I prefer this future Laurie more. I just think that her trauma and her dealing with the situation feels more realistic and less Sarah Connor from The Terminator to me. Don't get me wrong, I love Halloween 2018. I love how badass Laurie is. I get that. But I think that this one is an equally interesting, but for me more interesting study, because how she has this strained relationship with her child, in that she has been over reliant on him to support her through it when he's the child and she's the adult. There's also substance reliance as well. Yeah, I don't know. I just really like this one. 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. I love it. I love it so much. Then I watched Bram Stoker's Dracula. Now, I love Dracula. I have done a whole evolution on Dracula. If you haven't seen it, I will leave a link here. And I love many, many forms of Dracula. But this one is not one of my favourites. I just have to say it. I think this is one that grows on me with every rewatch, but I still don't love it. This is a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And there are some incredible things about it. I mean, bless Keanu Reeves. He's genuinely trying with that accent. Winona Ryder is charming. And I think, oh my God, I mean, Anthony Hopkins, Van Helsing, he's just so inappropriate with the way he behaves and the things that he says. We have 90s Cary Elwes, always a wonderful addition to a film. And of course, Gary Oldman's Dracula. It is one that is very faithful to the book. He starts older, he gets younger, he can move about in daylight. All this you'll know if you watched my Dracula episode. But it's visually beautiful. It's a little too long. It's definitely one of the horniest Dracula adaptations I think we've ever seen. There is a lot of sexual undertones there. Again, you will know from my Dracula evolution. But yeah, it's a 3 out of 5 for me. It's great. It's not the best. Okay, then we have perhaps not only my greatest viewing experience of October, but my greatest viewing experience of the year for me personally, because I rewatched Ghostbusters. What a shocker. This is, for this year alone, the 6th time I have watched it this year. But this was really special because I finally got to see it on the big screen. I went to see Ghostbusters at the cinema and I loved it so much. I was a little worried because I have seen it 5 times already this year alone, and I thought, I can basically say it word for word. I know everything that happens. Is there a point in me going to see it on the big screen when I know it so well? How different can the experience be? And obviously I was still going to go. I was never going to talk myself out of actually going, but it was so much better than I ever imagined. Like, everything looked so beautiful on the big screen. The graphics were incredible for a 1984 film, and the sound, because I know this film so well, sometimes I'll just have it on in the background. I'm not, paying attention, but to be forced in a room where you can hear every bit and see every bit, I was hearing parts of the score and parts of dialogue that I hadn't noticed before, or maybe I've just forgotten about. And so it was the most immersive and detailed experience of watching the film I've had in a long time. And yeah, it just made me so happy because I love that cinemas are putting older films back on the big screen. I saw Batman Begins in, was it August or September or something? That was for Batman's 85th anniversary, and this one was for Ghostbusters 35th. No, 30th? 35th. 30th. 40th? Hang on, wait. Anyway, yeah, so it's for Ghostbusters anniversary. I've talked about this film so much. It's a 5 out of 5 star film for me. I adore it so much. And I have just come to accept that it's probably my favourite film of all time, just because of how happy it makes me. Also, but yes, so that was amazing. Then let's get into some from my What the Horror challenge list. The first one is the Return of the Living Dead, from 1985. I love a zombie film. I'm not one of these people that hates on it. I think zombie films can actually be pretty good. This is one that I've heard is a lot of people's favourites, or considered one of the best, and I hadn't seen it, so for my zombie prompt I put this one on. I can see why people like it. There's a lot of fun in it, and the opening bit between the two characters, that it's like a warehouse that supplies hospitals and medical places with things like that, and the dialogue between these two characters is hilarious. It was so joyous to just watch those two. When you got into the zombie bit, it just wasn't really for me. I don't know, I think it's because 80s horror is one of my least favorites. And I don't know why. I'm not saying I don't like it, I'm just saying it's one of my least favourites. And this is beautifully and perfectly an 80s horror movie. And the music is fun, and I'm not saying it's bad. And I do love the idea that I didn't realise that this is intended as a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. I had no idea of that connection. I thought that was beautifully done. And I still gave it, what did I give it? 3 out of 5 stars. So it's, that's not, I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it as much as I thought I would, which is a shame. Okay, next we're going to talk about Pumpkinhead from 1988. This is directed by Stan Winston, the guy who made the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. He directed it. Lance Henriksen stars in it, Bishop from Aliens. I don't know why it's taken me so long to watch this. I knew of its existence. For some reason, I just never watched it, but I chose this for my rainy day prompt. Technically, it's only rainy at the back end of it, but hey, we'll go with it. I think this is a really unique story. There are stories like it, but I think this is a unique take on it. It is a great opening, a great ending, and the opening has so much heart and emotion in it, in Lance Henriksen's performance, in his relationship with his son. It's just so beautifully done, and I think that it's a good story of grief and revenge. And the beginning and ending are the strongest, like I said. The middle gets a little boring, where it's just the teens being picked off. But the ending, the absolute ending bit, is quite sad. But in a way, it's kind of a good commentary on taking justice into your own hands, and sort of the negative side of human emotions. So, but I enjoyed this one. I might check out the sequels. I don't know. I gave that one 3.5 out of 5. Then I watched Ginger Snaps. This is from 2000. This is one that I've heard so many people rave about, and people whose opinions on films I respect. And so again, I really wanted to check this one out. It is a really, really good film. And honestly, if teenage me had watched this, I think I would have been absolutely obsessed with it. I think it would have been a defining movie for me in those teen years. But as an adult, I come into this for the first time, it just stopped me from loving it. It's a 4 out of 5. I did really enjoy it. It's a great film. But like I said, I think coming to it as an adult for the first time, there just was something missing with it. But it's a beautiful werewolf film. The idea of becoming a werewolf and transformation, and the emotions of trying to navigate through this change, this transformation, is an allegory for puberty, for women, for girls becoming women, you know, discovering their periods and emotions and hormones and all these kinds of things. So it's a really good film, but I do kind of wish I'd found it as a teenager. Then we have Bride of Frankenstein. This was a rewatch for me. This one was for my prompt of a universal monster. I was considering the Wolfman, but I'm going to do a deep dive on the Wolfman to tie in with Lee Winnell's Wolfman in January, so I thought I'll do this one instead. I get everybody's complaint that the Bride of Frankenstein is in this for like 10 minutes, but I think that is such a testament to how iconic this character is, that she's made such an impact on the horror community and fans of these films, and yet the character is in it for so little a time. It's such a wonderful performance by Elsa Lanchester, who I just discovered is the nanny at the beginning of Mary Poppins, the one who leaves. I had no idea. And of course we do get Lancaster as Mary Shelley at the beginning as well, so that is wonderful. I love that, what's his name? I love him so much. It's like Dwight Fry. Yeah, Dwight Fry is in this. And he's in so many, look how many Universal films he's in. He's so good. He's Renfield in Dracula. And I always love it when he's kind of a wild-eyed character in these films. He's always a great addition. Oh yeah, so my review says the highlight is Minnie. Oh my goodness, you'll know who I mean if you've seen the Universal films. Minnie, she's also in The Invisible Man, and she must have been a stage actor before, because her performance is just so over the top. She has this incredible high-pitched voice, and I would watch her for hours. She's an absolute joy. Then I watched Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes a Boat to Manhattan. This one was for my Friday the 13th prompt. This is where I'm up to in the franchise. I have seen the remake, but I hadn't seen this one, or is it Goes to Hell, the next one? So I watched this one, and I'd already heard people's complaint, like, this is such false advertising. This is not Jason Takes Manhattan. This is Jason takes a cruise, takes a boat, hangs out on a boat. But it is so true. The majority of the film is just on a boat, and it gets a little boring. It is, of course, incredibly fun to see Jason in, is it Times Square? Like, there's some really good imagery. But my God, this movie, you have characters killed off like that just so quickly, and I cannot remember who they are. You have a character who has some sort of issue with water. We don't really know what that is. I didn't know what her relationship with the woman who dropped her off was. Turns out it's a teacher. Then you have a woman who, oh my God, there's a woman who tries to seduce her teacher and film it to blackmail him. You have somebody who gets killed and then just literally sits there crying, like, no, don't kill me. And she's like, oh God, he's going to get here to kill me. Don't, no. It's like, you could have run away 20 times over in this time. Yeah, so I said that everybody's so awful, apart from the dog. Everyone in this film is the worst. You also have a girl who gets kidnapped by street thugs, injected with something, potentially, like, they attempt to assault her, and then when everybody finds her again, nothing about it is mentioned. It's like, you probably need to get tested now. I mean, somebody needs to talk to her about this incredibly horrific experience that she's just gone through. And it's like, oh, yeah, let's just walk off and skip off into the sunset afterwards. 1.5 stars out of 5. I did not love that one. Then we watched Addams Family Values, and you'll probably laugh that I've just been complaining about Friday the 13th, and I gave it like 1.5. Family Values is a 5 out of 5 star film for me. I love this film. This one might be even slightly better than the first in terms of pace, in terms of the script. The first one, I love the aesthetics more. That one's more of a Halloween, Christmas kind of film. It has more of the spookiness to it. And we certainly have more of the Addams Family house. That one, you have a much bigger set where they make use of the graveyard and the swamp. And there's like the vault as well, and all the different rooms and the escape tubes. It is incredible. But this one, we don't get as much time in the Addams Family house, but we get more time with Fester as Fester, which is great. And we have the addition of Debbie. Oh my God, Joan Cusack's Debbie is, I don't know what it is. I cannot get enough of her. I adore her. And the scene where she's captured them all at the end and she's got the slideshow. I love it. I know it word for word now, and I just adore it. 5 out of 5 for me. Okay, then we have Cry Wolf. This one is a film I've not seen before, but I got it for my... Oh, you know what? No, I tell you what. Ginger Snaps was for my 2000s prompt. This one was for my teens doing dumb stuff prompt. This is one I'd heard about. The cast has Jared Padalecki in it from Supernatural. Also has Julian Morris from it, which I know from Pretty Little Liars. But I believe, was he Prince Charming in Once Upon a Time? I'm not sure. But this, oh my God, it also has John Bon Jovi in it. So good. I had to buy this on DVD. It's not streaming anywhere. I couldn't rent it anywhere either. Couldn't get it on Blu-ray, so I had to get it on DVD. It was so worth it. I loved this film. This is the perfect one to watch at Halloween and autumn. There's so many beautiful orange leaves in it. It's set in this private school. It's very like urban legend. If you like films like Urban Legend, and I know you did last summer, it's so, so good. It's just at that back end of sort of the Scream era, but it has its own take on it, its own little twist on it. I don't know why, but I just enjoyed this one. It's not even anything exceptional. It was really funny to watch Jared Padalecki playing a character that is not just a little whiny, like he's so whiny as Dean in Gilmore Girls and whiny as Sam in Supernatural. This one, he gets to be just a bit more of, you know, I don't know, just he has a bit more fun with it. So that was quite interesting. I loved the reveal of the killer as well. I loved like the reveal or the twist or whatnot. I thought that was really good. Okay, then we have Crimson Peak. This is a rewatch for me. This one was for my period setting, like a classic period setting horror film. This one I think is so deliciously, it's just deliciously gorgeous in terms of the sets, the costuming, the props. You have some of it in America, some of it in England. The houses in it are beautiful, but the costumes are the standout piece. They are absolutely remarkable in this. I think as well it's interesting that you have a character, Edith, who is writing a book, and she says that the ghosts in her ghost story represent something else, and it's the same here. So the ghosts in this ghost story represent past not past traumas exactly, but like past violence, past events coming back to haunt you. It's really, really just such a beautiful film to watch. Then I watched The Witches of Eastwick. This I do not believe was for any of my prompts. This was just one that was recommended to me on one of my streaming things, and I love the 3 leads, Susan Sarandon, Cher, Michelle Pfeiffer, and you know, Jack Nicholson. He does some really good performances, so I put it on. It was nothing like what I was expecting. I thought it would be more about, or prominently about, witches, or obviously about witches. Instead, this is actually a film about the awakening of women, their sexual awakening, their independent awakening, their finding out who they truly are. And so many of the reviews on this were so focused on how on earth would Jack Nicholson get these women. And I said in my review that I think that that's quite reductive and kind of missing the point, that it's not about this man's looks. It's about how he comes in and he sees them for who they really are, and he says these honest and open things to them, that they just, click with something. They can just discover their inner who they are, and once they stop caring what men think or what they think about themselves, their own self-doubt or the society, they just blossom. They had actually already started tapping into their witchy power, but that's what the Jack Nicholson character represents. True, there is a reveal about who his character actually is, and the ending of this film is bizarre. Like, it goes places. And then you have Veronica Cartwright, this highly religious woman, and the rest of the town, they shun the three women. And so it's that sort of society's fear of women tapping into their power, or people who are living outside of social norms. I just thought it was a really deep, a deeper film than I had imagined going in. But let me tell you, there is some choice. I will put up my review here, and if you want to go down to the bottom bit, there's some choice pieces of dialogue in this film that I never thought I would hear coming out of Veronica Cartwright's mouth. Jack Nicholson, fair enough, but yeah. 4.5 stars out of 5.5. I loved that one. It was really good. Then I watched Apollo 18. This is from 2011. This is a found footage film set in the 70s, and it is Apollo 18's mission to space, which officially never happened. Again, this is not a highly loved film. This is not one that gets many good reviews, but I enjoyed this one. I was watching it while I was also ironing, so maybe if I was just sat and expecting this to be my whole entertainment, maybe I would have thought differently. But as I was, distracted by ironing as well, I really enjoyed it. And I think that the journey to space, and while they were on the moon, that isolation, that idea of, imagine if we were trapped up here and we couldn't get back, that is terrifying enough that the horror of the film is such a slow build. I don't care, because it's creepy enough as it is. It's suffocating enough as it is. And the performances were fine. Some of the dialogue's a little weak, and the actual monsters on the moon are not the best in my opinion, but I did enjoy it. I would happily rewatch it. And, was it the scariest thing? No, but there's like some intrigue behind it, and I did like that. I liked what it was commenting on. Then I watched Don't Look Now. This was for a film from the 70s, like a 1970s, that was my movie prompt. This is one that I've wanted to watch for the longest time, and I thought it was one that was highly regarded in the horror community. I thought that this was one of those that's often on lists with one of the scariest moments, but apparently people don't love it as much as I thought they would. But I really liked this. I love 70s horror. The 70s could be potentially my favourite decade for horror. I love that in this film there's very much a focus on things aren't necessarily what they appear to be. There's lots of things in the film where things are mistaken for something else, or you can't tell the difference between. There's also this idea of time being fluid, in that the way the film is edited, past, present and future, they all kind of blend into one, with flashbacks, premonitions, and one scene being intercut with a future scene, a little bit like X, some of those transitions. It reminded me of that. The performances are really, really good. There are some unnerving moments, a few creepy moments. I thought the ending was really good. I did know the reveal, I did know what was coming. I have seen that clip before, but seeing it out of context, you don't learn everything. Seeing it in context with the build-up of the film, it still had an impact on me. It was still interesting. There were aspects of it that I didn't know. While some people don't seem to like it, I would recommend it. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. I thought this was great. Then I rewatched Halloween, and this one I watched for my patrons. I did a commentary track for them because it was Halloween, and I did a little research. I watched and read some interviews with John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis, and found some facts and things like that so I could do it. And this is the first time I've ever rated this film a 5-star. I have never given it 5 out of 5 before. I've never been, one of those people that thinks that Laurie and Halloween are the greatest things ever. I've always loved them and thought they were brilliant, but they've never been my favourites. But this time round, I finally got it. I think I saw it with fresh eyes, and I looked at it clinically and technically, and it is a remarkable film. And Laurie Strode is a better final girl than I ever thought. This is one she's a naive teenager, she's got no street smarts, yet she manages to navigate the situation the best that she can. She doesn't sit there waiting to be attacked by Michael. She fashions weapons, she keeps going, and unlike a lot of final girls, she has 2 children in her care that she also has to protect. And so she shows a lot of bravery. And I also felt for the first time a little shiver of creepiness from it, in just how sinister this idea is of this idyllic, safe suburban town, these, beautiful lives that these teen girls are living. And then this evil comes into town, and how it begins as a pocket, in this house, in the Wallace house. And then it just spreads out. It's just like a poison seeping into these people's lives. It'll never be the same again. And I really loved it, really enjoyed it. I know people can talk about it better than I can, but I'm just saying, I finally got it. And finally, for this month, we will end on Sleepy Hollow. This is my favorite, is my go-to Halloween night watch. I tend to watch it every Halloween if I can do. This is one of my all-time favorites. I adore it. I adore the score. I adore the visuals. I love how it's almost monochromatic. The cast is brilliant. You even have Christopher Lee in it for a little bit. It's just, it's peak Johnny Depp. It's 90s Johnny Depp, and I love it. I also want to make a point. I put it in my review, but I realised this time how incredible a character Ichabod Crane is. For a male character written in the 90s, set in the 1700s, this is perhaps one of the most well-rounded and emotionally balanced male character portrayals I have seen. This is a character who is laughed at because he's socially awkward, he's squeamish, he's scared. But yeah, he's squeamish, but he still does what he needs to do. He's scared, but he still investigates. He still tries to bring the murderer to justice. And though he's socially awkward, he still communicates clearly and firmly with everybody, and he manages to work through all the lies and intrigue that is happening in the town of Sleepy Hollow. And so while you've got this sort of possessive and aggressive Brom, the true bravery is in Ichabod, that bravery doesn't come from not being afraid of anything. It is being afraid and then facing that thing anyway. And it just struck me how well a written character Ichabod is in this film, and I just loved it even more for it. That is everything that I watched in the month of October. I haven't really had time for TV shows apart from the Dracula. I'm still rewatching Taskmaster, still rewatching Archer. They're usually on a loop. But yeah, that is everything. Let me know down below what you watched in October. What were some of your favourite watches, and what are your go-to yearly Halloween season rewatches? Do you have your favourites, or is it just Halloween? Let me know your thoughts on some of the ones that I watched. Also, let me know, did you do the What the Horror challenge? I have seen on Letterboxd that a few of you have been making lists of it. I've loved seeing your choices. If you're new here and enjoyed the video, then please do give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other content coming up. And if you would like extra content on top of everything you get here on this channel, and would like to join these wonderful names who support the channel, then there is a link to my Patreon page down in the description box. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. I hope you had a wonderful spooky season, a wonderful Halloween, and let's look forward to November and December. Bye.